7 weeks of football down, and the AFC North continues to get weirder and weirder. This has to be the most impactful week we've had in the division so far due to one specific situation that happened in a key AFC North matchup. We got a lot to talk about, so let's get right into it. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome to the Week 7 State of the AFC North address. This is critical. The division is starting to shape up, and right now, there's a two-man race between the Ravens and the Steelers. However, Cincinnati is looming. They are on the rise, and they have an opportunity to get back in this race. They have won a couple games. They're slowly climbing back into it, and they're going to have their chance to get back in the race, not only for a playoff opportunity, but for this division. So things are starting to heat up, but there's still plenty of football left to play. So, with the AFC North being like this, let's start off with the team at the top and talk about what they did on Monday night. The Baltimore Ravens taking on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers down at Tampa Bay. Monday Night Football, primetime game. And what did you get? You got a dominant offensive performance. A Lamar Jackson 5. I mean, Lamar Jackson's just playing at a high level. This is the best Lamar Jackson we have seen. He's throwing the ball at an extremely high level, man. The way he's playing the quarterback position this year, man, is top tier. This is the best we've seen Lamar in his entire career. He has complete command and control of this offense. He's able to do whatever he wants, and he's just balling, man. He's throwing some beautiful passes. He's been accurate all season. He's been consistent. He is playing at such a high rate that he's in the MVP race once again. In fact, right now, he's one of the leading candidates in the MVP race. It would be crazy to see this man go back-to-back and win 2 straight MVPs, to have 3 in total. The way the Ravens offense is grooving right now is spectacular. Lamar's doing his thing, and then Derrick Henry's doing his thing. Another great game for him. He busted an 81-yard run. He finishes the game with 169 rushing yards. He also has a receiving touchdown. So Derrick Henry continues to score touchdowns for the Ravens. He continues to run the ball at a high rate, and he continues to be the best back in football by far. I mean, he's first in damn near every rushing statistic you can find. There's a high possibility the Ravens could end up having the MVP and the Offensive Player of the Year on the same team. That hasn't happened since 1999. I believe the Rams, they did it with their Greatest Show on Turf. That's the last time that happened, because I remember Kurt Warner won the MVP that year. I think that was the last time we had seen this. So 1999 was the last time we have seen 2 players on the same team win an MVP and Offensive Player of the Year. It was crazy, and it's crazy to see right now because the way Derrick Henry's playing, he's well on his way for rushing over 2,000 yards. And Lamar is well on his way for passing over 4,000 yards and rushing for 1,000 yards. Both the things we just spoke about have never been done. Derrick Henry will be the first running back in NFL history to have multiple 2,000-yard rushing seasons, and Lamar will become the first quarterback in NFL history to run for over 1,000 yards and pass for over 4,000 yards. This is insanity. This duo has been insane. They have been balling all year, and they just complement each other perfectly. The offense is in groove. They're looking great. You're starting to see Bateman come alive. He's getting more involved. Flowers wasn't involved in this game that much because he got that ankle injury, and once he got hurt, they kind of leaned more towards Bateman. Didn't want to put too much on Flowers at that point, so it's all good. But you know what Flowers brings to the table? Bateman's emerging. Mark Andrews, it seems like he's finally in rhythm with Lamar Jackson. He had 2 touchdowns in this game. Isaiah Likely still there doing his thing. Justice Hill still being utilized on screens. He got himself a touchdown. The Ravens offense is grooving. You still have a bit of concerns with the offensive line, but they've done a relatively good job in disguising certain things and being able to hold up relatively throughout the game. They made mistakes here and there, but overall, they've done a really solid job holding up, so you got to give the offensive line credit. Defensively for the Ravens, you saw it in this game. I mean, I don't know what to tell you. This defense for the Ravens, they are getting smoked in these games. Baker Mayfield nearly threw for 400 yards. He had 3 touchdowns. A lot of those yards and touchdowns came in what would essentially be garbage time. But the Ravens, the defense, I don't know what's going on with them. They just can't make stops. The Ravens defense, they can't get off the field on third down. They can't make stops in secondary. They're constantly getting burnt. They're getting cooked left or right. They give up huge chunks of yardage. They can't make a stop. To make matters worse, their bread and butter, the run defense, struggled again today, which was weird. Like, the run defense was their strength. They're one of the best, if not the best run defense in football. They really couldn't do anything in this game. They constantly got ran over. Now, again, it wasn't incredibly terrible, but compared to what we had normally seen, they were letting anybody really run over them. They gave up over 100 yards rushing to the Bucs. They just couldn't really stop the run. When they were giving up, 59? I think they're averaging 59, 60 yards rushing, giving up a game, which is first in the league. They gave up over 100 in this game, so they could not stop the run. They couldn't stop the pass. Brandon Stevens was getting cooked left and right. There was just so much with the Ravens. So offensively, they look elite. Defensively, there's a problem. If the Ravens don't get that fixed, it's going to cost them down the stretch. Unfortunately for the Bucs, they had suffered injuries in this game. Mike Evans, he was already dealing with a hamstring injury. He re-injured that hamstring. They said he's going to be out until week 12 minimum, because they believe the Bucs have their bye in week 11, so he may be able to come back after the week 11 bye. So week 12 would be the earliest he could come back. As for Chris Godwin, he suffers a horrible ankle injury at the end of the game. His season's most likely done, so this is a devastating situation for the Bucs. You lose the game, but you lose your two best receivers. One's probably done for the year. The other's not coming back anytime soon. So Tampa Bay's in some serious trouble right now. But yeah, Ravens get the win. They advance to 5-2. They have won 5 straight games since starting the season 0-2. Everybody was panicking about the Ravens when they started 0-2, but they've won 5 straight games. Next week, they head down to Cleveland to take on the Browns in an AFC North matchup. Next up, we've got the Steelers. Somehow the Pittsburgh Steelers keep finding their way onto primetime. I don't know how the Steelers have all these damn primetime games, but they found a way to get all these primetime games. I don't know who keeps putting the Steelers on primetime, but for once, they actually shine. The Pittsburgh Steelers at home brought in the New York Jets. It was the Jets versus the Steelers on Sunday Night Football. It was an interesting matchup because this was the first start for Russell Wilson as a Steeler. Justin Fields had been the starter for the Steelers throughout the season. They had a 4-2 record with him, but Tomlin made the decision. He said, we're going to start Russ. And people were very controversial about it because they're saying Justin Fields has played well enough to at least continue to earn the opportunity. He hasn't done anything to lose that job. So why is Russell Wilson coming in? Well, because Tomlin believes Russell Wilson healthy is their best chance to win at the highest level. And after a game like this, Mike Tomlin feels a little bit vindicated. But we'll have to see how it goes throughout the season. As for this game, Russell Wilson has one of his best performances we've seen from Russell Wilson in quite some time. 16-29, 264 passing, 2 touchdowns, no interception. The passer rating of 109. Najee Harris, once again, getting it going on the ground. Over 100 yards rushing for him and a touchdown. Najee looked great. Russell Wilson also got himself a rushing touchdown in this game. George Pickens, he is so happy that somebody's finally throwing him the ball. 5 catches, 111 yards, and a touchdown. Van Jefferson also found the end zone with a touchdown as well. The Steelers' offense was just moving. Now, they started off slow. Obviously, it was Russell Wilson's first time playing this season. He had been out for quite some time. He ain't played football in a little minute, so he needed some time to get in order. But once he got comfortable, he started to do damage against the Jets' defense, and you started to see it. So Russell Wilson and George Pickens, they got some sort of connection, and it's working right now. So you got to lean on that. I don't know if Russell Wilson's going to continue to be the starter, but with the way he performed on Sunday night, there's a good chance Tomlin's going to keep rolling with Russell Wilson. Great performance offensively. 37 points. 37 points from the Steelers offense. If you've been watching the Steelers for like the last 3 years, they've struggled to put up this amount of points. For them to be able to score 30-plus points and dominate in a game like this, man, it brought tears to a Steelers fan's eyes. You can tell. I'm seeing so many Steelers fans on Twitter just happy. Everybody that was criticizing Mike Tomlin for starting Russell Wilson immediately switched up afterward because now they see what Russell Wilson is capable of. And to be fair, Russell Wilson didn't have the greatest of reputations heading to Pittsburgh because of how things ended in Denver. But if you watched how he played his last season in Denver, he had a pretty good season. Statistically, he was good. It's just the Broncos weren't winning games. So I think Russell Wilson still has something left in the tank, and clearly based off of this performance, he's still got something left in the tank. So the Steelers will continue to lean on that most likely and will stick with it. Are they going to potentially go back to Justin Fields at some point? I don't know. This might be a thing where they're going to continue to see how Russell Wilson plays, and if it gets to a point where Russell Wilson's playing bad consistently, they may go back to Justin Fields. But I don't know. Right now, Russ cooked. He did his thing. Everything's looking good. Next week, the Steelers take on the Giants on Monday Night Football. Oh my God, how do the Steelers keep getting all these damn primetime games? It's so crazy. But the Steelers got the win. They're 5-2. They're tied for first place in the AFC North with the Baltimore Ravens. They're heading, they're going to be hosting, but you know, they're preparing for the Giants to come to their stadium for Monday Night Football. But man, I'm just surprised to see that they got this many primetime games. But great win for them. Russell Wilson's debut as a Steeler was a success. Mike Tomlin was vindicated. And the Steelers right now, they look dangerous, man. They look dangerous. If they can get this type of offensive performance from Russell Wilson in this unit, yeah, they could be a threat. They could be a legitimate threat. But we have to wait and see. They got the Giants next week. We'll see how they do with that. And now, finally, we've got an AFC North matchup. We had the Cincinnati Bengals head down to Cleveland to take on the Browns in what was an impactful game in the division. Now, Cleveland's already done. We know they're most likely not even going to make the playoffs. At this point, it feels like the end of the road for the Cleveland Browns this season, but they're still going to keep fighting. However, in this game, there was something major that happened. The DeShaun Watson situation has not been great for Cleveland. They chose to take a bet. They took a huge risk by deciding they were going to go after Watson and then give him a fully guaranteed deal. They traded for DeShaun Watson. They gave him a $230 million fully guaranteed deal because they believed he was the guy that was going to lead this franchise to a championship. Since that deal, nothing has gone well for the Cleveland Browns. DeShaun Watson was not playing great football. Not even last year. When he finally started to turn the corner to where he was looking like he was playing some decent football, he suffers a season-ending injury. He's out. They still found a way to make the playoffs because of Joe Flacco, who was on the roster. But Joe Flacco's not here this year. Now you got Jameis Winston. Watson comes back. He's still not playing well. The Browns continue to lose games. In this game, DeShaun Watson was actually playing well. He wasn't turning the ball over. He wasn't looking like trash. He was actually in the middle of putting together his best drive of the season. Despite the fact that he's been the worst quarterback in football this season, he was putting together the best drive of his season and trying to put points up against this Bengals team. They were already down because to kick things off, Cincinnati got a return for a touchdown. So they were already up 7. Cleveland offensively was trying to figure something out here, finding a way to get into the end zone, which is something that was not happening at all throughout the season. They've struggled to score points with the Browns offense. They've struggled to score points with DeShaun Watson. So being down 7-0 early on already put the pressure on a team that can't score. So they're trying. They spend the whole first half trying. DeShaun's in the middle of his best drive of the game, arguably of the season, when all of a sudden, DeShaun Watson ruptures his Achilles, out for the season. Now, when I say this is huge news in the AFC North, I'm speaking in terms of the future of the Browns. They put all of their cards on DeShaun Watson. And now, in back-to-back years, he has suffered devastating injuries. Now, you got to understand, this is the DeShaun Watson that has already torn his ACL. He's torn his ACL twice. He did that. He toured in college once, toured again his rookie year in Houston. So he's already suffered season-ending injuries before. He comes to Cleveland, he suffers a shoulder injury, season-ending injury. Now he's ruptured his Achilles. He's going to be out for the rest of this year. He's going to miss some time next year. And he's approaching 30. A guy with that injury history that can't stay healthy. How can you look at him and continue to say he's your future? I think it's safe to say the DeShaun Watson era in Cleveland has officially come to an abrupt end. No matter how you look at it. The Cleveland Browns cannot continue to look at DeShaun Watson as their future because he's no longer that. With all these injuries piling up and him approaching 30 with his lengthy injury history, you cannot sit here and say we can continue with Watson when he comes back. He's still our guy. He's the future of this franchise. You can't say that. Now, DeShaun Watson, will he still be on the team? Most likely, the amount of money they would lose if they cut him now would be tremendous. The best chance they've got is cutting him in 2026. So when he comes back in 2025, he'll still most likely be on the roster, but you have to wait until June 1st of 2026 to really look to cut him. So his time as the face of the franchise, the face of the Cleveland Browns, that's over. He'll still be on the roster, but him being their future, him being their franchise, no, that is done. So with DeShaun Watson now out, what's left for Cleveland? You've got to go look for your quarterback. Do you look towards the draft? Do you feel confident in these draft picks, these draft prospects that you're looking at? Do you feel confident about Shador? Do you feel confident about Milroe? Do you feel confident about Cam Ward? Do you feel confident about Beck? Do you feel confident about some of these college quarterbacks you're seeing that are going to be in the draft next year? How confident do you feel about them? And if you feel confident enough, are you going to draft one or do you want to wait? What is the next move for the Cleveland Browns? In terms of this season, it's done. You stay competitive, you fight. They're going to probably start Jameis Winston. If they're smart, they'll probably start Jameis Winston. If they put in JTR, they put him in, it's a wrap. It's a wrap. I don't think they can, sorry, not JTR, DTR, excuse me. If they put in DTR, they're just actively tanking. But if they put in Jameis, they can at least put out something serviceable. To make matters worse for them, man, this contract is going to hit them hard the next 2 years. And they're going to have to pay this man while he's just not on the field. So they've got to deal with this. They gave up draft picks for him. There's really no way to deal with this. And now, when you look at the team and the state of it, you've got a lot of guys on this team that you're probably going to have to get rid of. Right now, Zadarius Smith is one of those guys that is on the trade market right now. He's on the trade block. They've got to look to get rid of him. They already got rid of Amari Cooper. They're probably going to look to get rid of Zadarius Smith. They have to start having a little bit of a fire sale. Not a complete fire sale. You're not going to get rid of everybody, but you've got to get rid of some of these guys. I think they're still going to keep some of their main guys. You're going to look at Myles Garrett. He's still going to be here. You're still going to keep JOK. Some of those keystone pieces you have to keep for your future. So they're going to keep a good chunk of these guys. But some of these dudes, they're gone. Some of these dudes are gone. So things look horrible in Cleveland. As for Cincinnati, they've creeped up now. They're still here. They're not dead. I told you the schedule favors the Bengals. The Bengals do not have a difficult schedule this year. The schedule favors the Bengals. Now, granted, they have not looked great these last 2 weeks. I cannot sit back and say they looked great. Against the Giants, they survived. The Giants' incompetence on offense literally cost them the game. They left points on the board. Their incompetent offense and their inability to kick the football is why they lost that game. Cincinnati just survived. That's it. And then in this game against the Browns, an argument can be made if they would have started Jameis. If Jameis wasn't the third seed, if Jameis wasn't the third string and DTR wasn't the backup, if Jameis was there instead and he would have started as soon as DeShaun Watson came out there, came out of the game, they potentially could have won that game. Because when DTR came in the game after DeShaun Watson left due to his injury, DTR played horrible, threw 2 picks, he was inaccurate, he just looked lost out there. I don't know what you do with DTR at this point. He looked lost out there. So in comes Jameis Winston. He leads them down the field for a touchdown drive. They get a 2-point conversion. All of a sudden, it's a 21-14 game. Cincinnati didn't play their best game. They did not. They looked bad. They looked very beatable in this game. But at the end of the day, they got the job done. Right now, Cincinnati's main goal is to win no matter what. You must survive no matter what. Joe Burrow had a good game. 15-25, 181 yards passing, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions, a passer rating of 108. 1 touchdown went to Jamar Chase. The other touchdown went to T. Higgins. He targeted his guys. That's all you need. As long as you trust in the talent you have. That 3-headed monster in Burrow, Chase, and Higgins. They have to rely on that to get these games done. They have to. They've got to rely on that talent to try to get some of these wins. So with the win here, they've now sit at 3-4. If you take a look at their schedule, the schedule favors them. Now, they've got a marquee matchup against Baltimore in 3 weeks. I think it's very possible Baltimore will be 7-2 by the time they match up with the Cincinnati Bengals. Cincinnati being 3-4 right now with 2 games looming. If they can win those next 2 games, they head to Baltimore for Thursday Night Football at 5-4. At that point, they would have recovered. You start 1-4 and you win 4 straight games to get to 5-4. Yeah, the Bengals will be fine. They will have their opportunity to fight for a playoff spot. However, if you head to Baltimore at 4-5, now you're playing with dangerous territory. Because if you potentially lose to the Ravens again and you're sitting here at 4-6, yeah, your season's really going to feel like it's done. Because I think the maximum amount of losses they can have this year is 7. I think they might be able to sneak in with a 10-7 record. But at the same time, tiebreakers matter. And they've only beaten one AFC team. That's Cleveland. You lost to the Ravens. You lost to the Patriots. That hurts you right there. You lost to Kansas City. That's 3 AFC teams you've lost to. That's going to hurt in tiebreakers when it comes to wildcard spots. So Cincinnati has to start getting some of these wins. Next week is going to be the biggest test. This is easily the biggest test. It's a must-win game. Next week, they'll be at home taking on the Philadelphia Eagles. If they can't beat the Eagles, they're going to be in some serious trouble. The Bengals season weighs in the balance with this Eagles game because you don't want to have 5 losses through 8 games. You don't want that. Halfway through the season, being 2 games under 500 and having 5 losses in the AFC is not a good look. So Cincinnati has to come out here and execute at the highest level. They lose to Philadelphia, they're going to be in some serious trouble. As for Cleveland, like we said, they're going to be hosting Baltimore. Again, they're just looking to finish the season out strong. Nothing really there for them. No expectations for them at this point. They have to start looking towards their future and figure out what their next move is at quarterback. But yeah, that has been the state of the AFC North Week 7 edition. The Ravens and the Steelers, they're tied for first place at 5-2. Cincinnati's behind them at 3-4. And the Cleveland Browns are 1-6. We will see what happens next week because, of course, the AFC North matchup between the Ravens and the Browns, that should be interesting. Pittsburgh taking on the Giants. I would assume they should be able to win that game because the Giants are terrible. But that Cincinnati-Philadelphia game, that is where you got to keep your eyes on. That right there could potentially determine the season for the Bengals. If they lose that one and get to 5 losses, they're going to be in some trouble. But we'll have to wait and see what happens. Anyway, guys, I appreciate you tuning in. Thank you so much for watching. Be sure to stay safe and peace out.